Good morning, I'm Robert Tan sitting in for Mikey Oreta and you're watching Business 360 where we break down the numbers, connect the dots and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt and lead. Let's dive right in. The Philippines and India signed more than a dozen bilateral agreements. The Agriculture Department mulls banning rice importation for 2 months beginning September. At least 2 senators sound the alarm over the billion peso investment of GSIS to online gambling firm DigiPlus Interactive. And U.S. President Donald Trump hints at using FBI agents to bring back Democratic lawmakers to Texas. Let's take a look at how global financial markets performed overnight. U.S. stocks closed lower as investors weighed the impact of tariffs after Yum Brands and other companies cited trade duties and their results and outlooks. President Donald Trump recently said the U.S. may impose a small tariff on pharmaceutical imports with plans to raise it later. He also signaled an announcement on tariffs targeting semiconductors and chips in the next week or so.
We've got some mixed signals over the last week. We came off of some record highs a week ago, and now we're having some more volatility. And I think we're starting to see that reflect in the hard economic data as well. The big news coming out of the end of last week that's still influencing markets today is that big revision to jobs numbers. Is the economy really slowing? Is that really what we're seeing? And what we're finding is if you look at the short-term comparisons month over month, there does seem to be a decline. But is that sustainable? When we widen the lens out and look at year-over-year numbers, things appear to be okay. It's not great. It could be better, but you're obviously still seeing the long-term effects of higher interest rates linger on corporate earnings.
The Dow Jones fell 0.1%, while the S&P 500 dropped nearly 0.5%, and the Nasdaq lost 0.6%. In Europe, markets are mixed. London's FTSE rose 0.1%, while Germany's DAX added almost 0.4%, but France's CAC 40 lost 0.1%. The Philippines and India have officially elevated their ties to a strategic partnership marking 75 years of diplomatic relations. President Bongbong Marcos and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi witnessed the exchange of 13 key agreements covering legal, science, and maritime cooperation, among others. A bilateral trade deal and a sovereign data cloud project in the Philippines are also among the initiatives in the works. To boost tourism, the Philippines and India agreed to offer visa-free entry for each other's tourists. A commemorative stamp was unveiled to celebrate the milestone partnership.
This new apex attests as much to the remarkably rapid growth, broadening and deepening of our 75-year-old bilateral relationship. The possibilities represented by the strong upward trajectory of our two economies, as it does to the growing alignment of our interests and views on the challenges and imperatives of our time.
President Marcos also met India's health minister in New Delhi on Tuesday. They discussed the collaboration between the two countries on the health sector. These include the sharing of best practices that could be adapted and implemented in the Philippines. Health Secretary Ted Herbosa welcomes the partnership between the two countries.
Unang part of the meeting, we discussed the healthcare system of India, how they have covered with costs yung about 600 million individuals in India for maternal care, hypertension check, cancer of the breast and oral cancer and even cervical cancer. So napakaganda, nakakapag-provide sila, ginagamit nila yung ASHA workers nila, which are similar to our barangay health workers, to navigate them to get good health care. So it's a model we can use, and then may telemedicine sila. Meron tayong bilateral with India. So this is on health.
The government has secured approval to borrow billions from foreign lenders. The Monetary Board of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas approved $11.18 billion worth of foreign loans in the first half of 2025, just below the $13.68 billion approved for all of 2024. Under the 1987 Constitution, the BSP must approve all government foreign borrowings to ensure debt remains manageable. The loans will fund transport, climate resilience, health, and other key programs. The Budget Department is preparing for the guidelines for implementing a reenacted budget in case the spending plan made by Congress will be different from the President's proposal. Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman has instructed the agency's legal and legislative group and budget preparation and execution group to handle this, but the budget chief hopes this will not happen, noting that the 2025 budget has been tagged as the most corrupt. During his fourth State of the Nation address, President Bongbong Marcos said that he is willing to approve a reenacted budget if Congress includes provisions in its spending plan that are not aligned with the administration's priorities. The country's unemployment rate dropped to 3.7% in June. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority shows this is lower than May's 3.9%, but higher than the 3.1% recorded in June 2024. The decline was driven by employment gains in sectors such as fishing, retail, finance, transport, and health services. And let's get reactions on the latest unemployment figures. We'll be speaking with Renato Magtubo. He's the chairperson of Partido Manggagawa. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Good morning po at good morning sa ating tagapakinig.
Sir, what are your thoughts on the latest June unemployment data?
Kung figures lang ating pag-uusapan, dapat magsaya ang gobyerno natin, di ba? Kasi between 3 to 4% na target na unemployment is a good number. Pero ang tanong natin sa lahat is that ito ba'y nagre-reflect sa tunay na employment status ng mga manggagawa sa bansa? Kasi sa kada survey, tandaan natin na kahit na isang oras ka lang na nagtrabaho at nasaklaw ka ng survey, you're considered employed. Okay? So kung nag-range sa 95 to 96% ang employment rate ng bansa, matuwa ka sana kasi marami may trabaho. Pero bakit? Marami naghihirap at marami nagugutom sa ating bansa kung ganun ang datos ng ating employment at unemployment. Kasi ang mga trabahong nagagawa ng ating bansa ay karaniwang hindi regular, hindi contractual, kundi contractual. Workers are struggling on underemployment, no? Kaya at low wages. Kaya kahit na tumaas sa 90% level ang ating employment at 46% yung ating unemployment, marami pa rin nagugutom, marami pa rin nakakaranas ng gutom, marami pa rin naghihirap sapagkat hindi siya gainful employment. So dapat ang pulisya ng gobyerno is just like quantity lang, dapat to generate quality jobs.
So sinasabi nyo yan, ano na ngayong ibig sabihin sa tingin nyo doon sa datos po ng unemployment data ng Philippine Statistics Authority? May kulang po ba? Ano pang dapat talaga nilang tingnan para makita na maging kompleto po yung datos na ito?
Dapat ang tingnan talaga natin, ang magandang survey yung yung ano pa talaga ang datos natin sa gainfully employed workers ng bansa. Ibig sabihin, siya ay working 8 hours a day, may social protection, at marami pang iba. Kasi ang ating employment kasi is more or less underemployed marami. Maraming part-time, maraming casual, maraming contractual, low-paying jobs. Hindi nakapag-generate na mga quality jobs to sustain gainful employment. So parang kami sa labor, lagi namin sinasabi, silaw itong figures na ito, pero pag tutuusin, kung totoo ito dapat ng mga figures, dapat hindi nakararanas ng malaking porsyento ng pamilyang nagugutom at parating porsyento ng pamilyang nakakaranas ng gutom. Kasi hindi siya mag-correlate. Kung 95 to 96% ang employment rate ng bansa, dapat bumawas yung data ng nagugutom at naghihirap. Pero hindi, lumalaki. Kasi ang employment natin is contractual, low-paying, at karamihan ay underemployed.
So Sir Renato, kung nakikita nyo may kakulangan dito, ano po yung kailangan pong gawin ng gobyerno para mas mapalakas at mas maparami po ang ating mga kababayan na naghahanap po ng trabaho at maging gainfully employed?
Okay, una sa lahat, i-address nila yung labor contractualization sa ating employment system. Dapat i-address yan. Itigil na yung contractualization of labor. Yung ano na buwan tanggal, ano na buwan tanggal, etc. Dapat doon sa principal na ka-employed, sa ganun, tuloy-tuloy yung kanyang regular employment. That's one. Number two, dapat mag-shift na ng policy into an industrial policy to generate mga stable jobs sa manufacturing at sa mga businesses na hindi puro gig. Ba? Yung mga hindi naman natin binamaliit yan, pero yun ay pansamantala ng mga trabaho at hindi sustainable para sa pamilya. At pangatlo, itaas yung sweldo ng mga manggagawa. Nang sa ganun, pag employed ka, makasuporta ka sa iyong pamilya. Magkakaroon talaga pag na-address yung tatlong bagay na iyon, pag tingnan natin yung employment figures natin, tsak yun ay mayroong impact sa economic recovery, may impact doon sa kahirapan na dinadanas ng maraming pamilyang Pilipino.
Sir Renato, nabanggit nyo po na sa SONA po ng ating Pangulo ay hindi po nabanggit hinggil sa wage hike. Ano po yung reaksyon nyo po dito?
Malamang, hindi niya talaga binanggit yun. Kasi magagalit o tinututulan niya ng big business. No? Gusto niya maging business friendly. Pero, ang sinasabi namin, yung hindi pagbanggit ng Pangulo doon sa pagtaas ng sweldo na yan ay perennial problem na from the other administration na kanyang pinalitan, yung low wages, ay pagbabaliwala doon sa hinaing ng mga manggagawa. Kasi yung proposal namin dyan, relief lang Dapat bigyan ng relief ang mga manggagawa. Kasi imagine natin sa Metro Manila, 690 pesos ang minimum wage after increase ng wage board. Pero ang cost of living for a family of 5 is 1,200. So meron tayong 510 na deficit dyan sa sweldo. No? So kailangan mayroong wage increase sa legislation. No? May proposal ng 200 na wage increase. Tapos, i-review natin yung mechanism sa pagtatakda ng minimum wage sapagkat 30 years ng mekanismo na yan. Pero naging palpak siya, hindi siya effective para ihabol yung sweldo sa cost of living, kundi after 30 years, nasa starvation level pa rin ang minimum wage ng mga manggagawa.
Renato, nabanggit nyo na 1,200 mamimit na yung cost of living ng isang pamilya. Sapat ba yan o kailangan pang mas mataas? Ano pa yung sa pananaw nyo ang tamang wage ng isang manggagawa sa isang buwan para hindi naman yung survival mode lang, medyo mas magaan yung kanilang buhay ng kanilang pamilya?
Sa study kasi ng mga NGOs natin, mga institution, 1,200 ay magkaroon na siya ng decent na pamumuhay for a family of 5. Ibig sabihin nun, matustusan niya na yung pag-edukasyon, transportasyon, renta sa bahay. Kasi binata yan sa present cost of living sa kasalukuyan. Okay? Sa NCR. Yun. So kung maabot natin yon, medyo maginhawa na ng konti ang buhay ng mga manggagawa. Hindi naman siya yayaman dyan. Nagastusin niya yan. Nagastusin niya yan. O diba?
Karine, Karine, nag-file po ang Makabayan Block ng 1,200 na national wage. Sa tingin nyo ba may pag-asa ito?
May pag-asa yan kasi sapagkat ganito ang amin namang proposal. Sa ngayon, bigyan ng immediate relief ng ating gobyerno by way of legislation para makahabol ng konti. 690 nga ba? Kung 1,000 ang target natin, may 510 na kakulangan. So bigyan mo muna ng 200. Okay? Bigyan mo ng 200. Tapos, i-address natin yung contractualization of labor. Kasi dyan yung yung hindi tuloy-tuloy na employment. Tapos, pangatlo, i-review natin yung wage fixing mechanism. Na 30 years na nga yung regional wage fixing mechanism. Pero, ang level ng minimum wage natin, starvation level pa rin. Hindi nakakaagapay sa pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin. So, yun yung mga proposal namin sa Congress dapat atupagin naman ang ating mga congressman at senador.
Karine, nabanggit po sa report ng gobyerno na yung Philippine inflation ay 0.9% nitong Hulyo. Nararamdaman ba ito ng mga ating mga manggagawa?
Nako, ako ay 65 years old na, no? Matagal na ako sa labor movement, ano? Yung pagbaba at pagtaas ng inflation rate natin based sa consumer price index hindi naman yung nagsasabi na bababa kaagad ang maraming bilihin. Pag tumaas yung presyo ng bilihin, hindi na bumababa yan kapag kisalabi pa ng gobyerno na bumaba yung inflation. Punta ka sa palengke. Sasabihin mo, bumaba na yung inflation, baba yung presyo ng gulunggong. Sasabihin sa'yo ng tindera, doon ka bubili sa newspaper mo. Diba? Ganun ang reality. Hindi naman kaagad bumababa ang presyo ng goods and services kapag sinabing na tame o na bawasan yung inflation rate. Yan yung katotohanan.
So hindi pa talaga nararamdaman.
Naiiwan kahit na naiiwan yung sweldo ng manggagawa kasi patuloy pagtataas ng presyo ng bilihin.
Karene, may mga nag-argue na yung wage increases mas ma-address po ng Regional Tripartite Wage Board. Agree po kayo dyan?
Hindi nga kami agree kasi yung proof talaga niyan, 30 years na ang Regional Wage Fixing Mechanism mula sa Republic Act 6715, yung Wage Rationalization Act of 1989 pa. Oh, di ba? More than 30 years na. Pero tingnan mo naman ang sweldo ng mga manggagawa. Ang layo-layo sa cost of living. Diba? So may kapalpakan o kaya may kahinaan, kundi man kamalian, yung mekanismo na yan na dapat i-review na ng Congress at palitan ng bago nang sa ganon makahabol tayo dun sa pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, yung sweldo ng mga manggagawa.
Sa ngayon po, Karene, kung bibigyan niyo po yung rating ang performance po ng ating Pangulo, ano po yun?
Sa ngayon kasi marami siyang mga kalakaran na sinasabi na hindi nararamdaman. Diba? Survey sa pan-survey sinasabi ang issue ng mamamayan, mataas na presyo ng bilihin, bababang sweldo, sustainable jobs, corruption, at marami pang iba. Lagi yan. Pero yung mga kanyang ginagawa, hindi pa nararamdaman ng mga gagawa at mga mahihirap. So dapat tama na lagi niyang pinakikinggan yung big business. Dapat pakinggan naman niya yung mga manggagawa at maralita. Ano ba ang inhaing namin? Simpleng-simple lang eh. Diba? Itaas natin yung sweldo, bantayan natin yung presyo. Dapat regular yung trabaho at sustainable jobs. Magbago tayo ng pulisiya. Doing the same thing, expecting different results is insane. Di ba? So, dapat may pagbabago sa kalakaran. Ngayon, tinatanong mo ako anong grade niya sa akin. Sa ngayon, may ginagawa naman siya pero hindi pa nararamdaman. Siguro at scale of 1 to 10, mga 4.
Mga 4. Okay. Sa ngayon po, kung magkakaroon po kayo ng pagkakataon na magkaharap po kayo ng ating Pangulong Marcos, ano yung pinakamagandang advice na pwede nyo pong gawin sa kanya, maibigay sa kanya?
Yun na nga sinasabi ko kanina. Tigilan niya na naman yung pakikinig lang sa big business. Makinig naman siya doon sa mga manggagawa. Alam mo niyo ba, ang ginanakit ng labor movement sa bansa sa ngayon, naka 3 years na si BBM ni isang dialogue sa labor sector, hindi niya pa nahaharap. Mayroon na kaming sa Nagkaisa Labor Coalition 4 requests through the Department Secretary of Labor para mag-dialogue, para i-present sa kanya yung aming kahilingan at mga solusyon sa problema. Pero hindi kami naharap eh. Kaya ang aming advice sa kanya, harapin nyo kami. Tama na yung poor business na lang inaharap nyo at ibang mga sektor. Harapin nyo yung mga manggagawa na napakarami sa ating lipunan, na mga consumer din ng ating merkado, at the same time, workforce natin para sa development at pag-unlad ng ating ekonomiya. Harapin niyo yung manggagawa.
And finally po, Karene, pag nagsimula na yung 19% tariff ni President Donald Trump, sa tingin niyo ba, mas maraming mawawalan ng trabaho dahil dito?
Alam nyo, hindi ko naman minamaliit yung negosasyon na yon. 1% na kabawasan sa taripa sa mga exports ng ating exporter sa US, ay tingin ko naman may malaking tulong yan. Pero anong kapalit? Diba? Ang kapalit ay tariff-free na pagpasok ng mga kotse ng US sa merkado natin. Di mo ba? Yun yung kapalit eh. Tariff-free na siya. Papasok dito yung mga kotseng made in US. So anong epekto niyan? Alam mo naman natin, yung ating industry sa kotse ay assembly. May mga allied industries yan. No? At mga Japanese, karamihan Asian-made cars at European-made cars. So kung yun ay papasok, influx ng mga US automobiles dito sa ating bansa, tariff-free, magkakaroon matinding competition. I-check yan, may epekto yan sa ating car industry na assembly na nga lang ang ginagawa dito, tatamaan yung mga Asian at European-made cars dito.
And finally, Karen, may mga panawagan pa ba kayo sa ating gobyerno, sa ating Pangulo?
Yun ang, sa ating Pangulo, kami naman ay humihiling sa kanya na dapat magkaroon ng dialogue yung labor sa kanya, number 1. Number 2, dinggin naman ang mga kahilingan ito sapagkat may kaakibat naman na solusyon to. Pangatlo, baguhin natin yung mga policies natin in relation to generation of employment. Ang kailangan na ng bansa natin is an industrial policy para to create a sustainable and gainful employment sa ating bansa. At i-address natin talaga ito yung problema ng contractualization na kung saan ito yung problema na binibigyan mo ng trabaho na 6 months yung manggagawa, tapos tanggalin, agency na naman 6 months, na hindi nagkakaroon ng ng continuity sa kanyang sustainable employment.
Okay. Okay, maraming salamat po, Karene, for joining us here po sa Business 360. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat din po.
And that was Renato Magtubo, the chairperson of the Manggagawa Group. We're taking a short break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Philippine inflation has dropped to its lowest level in over 5 years, led by a sharp fall in food prices. One staple item is driving the decline with broader economic implications on the horizon. Sujin Kim reports.
For the first time in over 5 years, Philippine inflation has dropped below 1%. Inflation fell sharply to 0.9% in July from 1.4% in June, driven mainly by steep declines in food prices, especially rice. Rice inflation dropped to a staggering minus 15.9%, the sharpest decline ever recorded by the Philippine Statistics Authority.
Ito po yung pinakamalaking pagbaba dito sa presyo ng bigas. Siguro mga next 4 months, we still be seeing negative inflation for rice. Ang expectation natin as an average rice inflation negative for the whole year.
Regular milled rice saw the sharpest decline, with the PSA partly crediting the government's 20 peso per kilo subsidized rice initiative. Corn and select vegetables also recorded negative inflation. Inflation also slowed for meat, especially pork, dairy products like powdered milk, and packaged or ready-made food. Outside the food basket, inflation eased as well for electricity and LPG, along with transport inflation from lower airfare, seafare costs, and fuel prices. But the PSA clarified, a drop in inflation doesn't necessarily mean prices are falling. It means they're still rising, but at a much slower pace.
Yung inflation natin bumababa na, no? Pero overall, positive pa rin yun. So ibig sabihin, tumataas pa rin yung presyo ng mga bilihin on a yearly basis. Mas mabagal lang ang pagtaas ng presyo. May mga items nga tayo na medyo substantial yung pagtaas. Yung presyo ng baboy. Ang ating presyo ng pork per kilo, ano? Ang tinatrack namin, for example, yung kasim. Ang ating average price noong July ay nasa 371 pesos average for the Philippines. Pero noong July last year, ito ay nasa 335 pesos lang.
Vegetable prices are expected to pick up again this August, along with select petroleum products.
May mga announcement at tataas itong August, so we are actually monitoring that.
The Bangko Sentral confirmed July's figure is well within projections and expects low inflation to continue through 2025, though global slowdowns may dampen domestic growth. With core inflation stabilizing and rice prices falling, further rate cuts from the BSP remain on the table as it continues to unwind its monetary tightening cycle. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The Department of Agriculture is eyeing a rice import ban for up to 2 months starting September. The move aims to halt the sharp drop in farm gate prices of palay. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. says The proposed 45 to 60-day ban would take effect during the peak harvest season. Under Republic Act 12078, the president can suspend imports if there's an oversupply, causing a steep price drop. Industry groups warn farm gate prices have plunged to as low as 8 pesos per kilo due to the influx of cheap imports. International Container Terminal Services Incorporated's attributable net income rose to $244.31 million in the second quarter of the year. In its disclosure, the Razon-led firm said this is 16% higher than the $210.67 million recorded in the same period last year. The latest data was driven by sustained earnings across all its port operations. Petron Corporation's first half earnings fell 12% to 5.3 billion pesos. In a disclosure, the oil refiner said revenue dropped 13% to 386.4 billion pesos in the first 6 months of the year, down from 444.5 billion pesos in the same period last year. The decline comes amid rising geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and global tariff pressures. OPEC Plus moved to unwind production cuts also drove Dubai crude down to $64 per barrel in May before rebounding to $69 in June. From bank branches to mobile apps, ordinary Filipinos can now invest in government securities through e-wallets. Retail treasury bonds have been integrated into GCash and PDAX, a move aimed at expanding access to financial inclusion. Sujin Kim has the details.
Ito lang din ang investment na doble-doble ang balik sa'yo.
For the first time in Philippine history, retail treasury bonds are now accessible via e-wallets, a landmark step that aims to democratize investing, making government securities available to every Filipino, not just the wealthy.
It has stood as one of the government's most effective tools, of course, to generate funding and also for inclusive finance, empowering ordinary Filipinos to directly participate in nation building by investing in government securities that are safe, accessible, and reliable.
Yesterday, the Philippine government launched RTB 31. And even before the public offering began, RTB 31 had already raised 210 billion pesos through its institutional auction, oversubscribed by more than 11 times. Amid global uncertainty, RTB 31 offers a reasonable 6% return, with peace of mind as the investment is guaranteed to be repaid after 5 years with zero default risk. And it's not just for big investors. Now, Filipinos can start investing for as little as 500 pesos through GCash for select T-bills.
Sa pamamagitan ng G-bonds sa GCash, kasing dali na lang ng pagbili ng load ang pag-invest. At napakamura lang na kailangang kapital. Pwede magsimula sa halagang 500 pesos lang. Mas mura pa sa binibili mong kape sa Starbucks araw-araw. Ang 500 pesos yan, kayang tumubo ng 25 to 30 pesos. At kung mas malaki ang investment mo, mas malaki rin ang tubo.
GCash users can instantly place a buy order starting at just 5,000 with zero fees. This is how we make investing truly accessible, one tap at a time, one Filipino at a time.
RTB 31 also marks a first for the Philippine government, the country's first ever tokenized bond, powered by partnerships with GCash, PDAX, and the Bureau of the Treasury.
This innovation is aligned with our goal to modernize and diversify ways in which our fellow citizens can engage with the government.
Just 1 week after their launch, G-Bonds already has over 88,000 registered users, with transactions reaching 41 million pesos and counting.
And hopefully, we can grow this to as high as, even higher than our G-Stock subscribers now, which is in the millions also.
Beyond personal returns, RTBs help fund the government's development priorities, including infrastructure, education, and healthcare.
Dahil sa RTBs, ang bawat pisong ini-invest mo ay hindi lang lumalago, kundi nagiging bahagi ng kwento ng pag-asenso ng Pilipinas.
Recto also guaranteed that the funds raised through RTBs will have good fiscal management. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange opened earlier. Let's take a look at the initial figures. The PSEI is in the green, trading at 63.94. The sub-indices are mixed. Advancers currently outpacing decliners, 73 to 69. So far, value turnover has reached more than 1.2 billion pesos. Meanwhile, in the currency markets, the peso opened at 57.60 to the dollar, appreciating from previous close of 57.63. We're taking a short break. Business 360 will be right back. Senator Erwin Tulfo is calling for an investigation into the billion peso investment of GSIS in online gambling firm DigiPlus Interactive. The lawmaker suspects it could involve kickbacks and should lead to criminal charges against GSIS President and General Manager Jose Arnulfo Wick Veloso. Tulfo said he would ask the Senate Committee on Games and Amusement to lead the decisions questionable and unacceptable.
Pinaka nakakagulat sa lahat, nag-invest ang GSIS ng lagpas 1 bilyong piso sa online sugal. Pinasok ito ng GSIS when DigiPlus's shares were being offered at a peak of 65.30 pesos. Those shares have since hit a low of 13.68 pesos. Dugi na! Tayo nga po, mga kasamang nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno, ni hindi pwedeng tumuntong sa kasino. Bakit ang GSIS naman? Todo taya at ginawang puhunan ang pera ng public employee sa sugalan.
Meanwhile, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee wants to investigate why some DPWH officials were promoted instead of being held accountable following the collapse of the Cabagan Santa Maria Bridge in Isabela. Senators question why only the contractor and truck driver were blamed while government officials who oversaw the project remain untouched. Senator Jinggoy Estrada named the promoted officials as follows: Assistant Secretaries Loretta Malaluan and Mary Bueno, and Undersecretaries Eugenio Pipo Jr., Ador Canlas, and Maria Catalina Cabral. Meanwhile, Senator Joel Villanueva raised concerns about the official explanation for the collapse.
Based on records, mali po yung sinasabi ng mga taga-DPWH na overloading ang main cause ng collapse. Kasi dun sa records, technical reports, and yung timeline of events na sinabmit po dito sa Senado during the hearing, napakalinaw pa po sa sikat ng araw na hindi po ito isang aksidente dahil ito po ay preventable disaster born of negligence, oversight failures, and a lack of will to act when it mattered.
The House of Representatives has adopted a resolution to open budget talks to third-party observers, including civil society groups, to boost transparency. Under the measure, accredited people's organizations can join budget deliberations as non-voting observers. Guidelines on how groups can participate will be finalized by the House Committees on Appropriations and People's Participation. A similar resolution is pending in the Senate, along with proposals to live stream budget talks and upload key documents online. We're taking a breather. Business 360 will be right back. U.S. President Donald Trump said he will decide whether to sanction countries who purchase Russian oil after a meeting with Russian officials on Wednesday. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will be in Moscow on Wednesday to meet with Russian leadership. Trump has given Russian President Vladimir Putin until Friday to make progress on peace negotiations with Ukraine or face tougher sanctions.
Do you still plan to follow through on your threat to impose 100% tariffs on all countries that purchase Russian energy, including China?
Well, I never said a percentage, but we'll be doing quite a bit of that. We'll see what happens over the next fairly short period of time. But we'll see what happens. Yep. You know, they have a meeting tomorrow. We have a meeting with Russia tomorrow. We're going to see what happens. We'll make that determination at that time.
U.S. President Donald Trump warns the FBI may have to get involved in the Texas issue. This after dozens of Democratic lawmakers fled the state capitol to prevent the legislature from adopting a Republican-backed plan for redrawing the state's congressional districts. Redrawing the district's lines could lead to flipping some House seats currently held by Democrats. The Republican Party wants to protect its narrow majority in next year's congressional midterm elections.
Well, I think they've abandoned the state. Nobody's seen anything like it, even though they've done it twice before. And in a certain way, it almost looks like they've abandoned the state. It looks very bad. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Should the FBI get involved? Should the FBI get involved?
Well, they may have to. They may have to. No, I know they want him back. Not only the Attorney General, the governor wants him back. If you look, I mean, the governor of Texas is demanding they come back. So a lot of people are demanding they come back. You can't just sit it out. You have to go back. You have to fight it out. That's what elections are all about. Yeah, please.
Canada will provide $870 million worth of support for its soft lumber producers. This will help them cope with the U.S. tariffs. The U.S. has accused Canada of dumping lumber on its domestic market. It has imposed both anti-dumping and countervailing measures on imports of timber used in house construction. Canada denies the allegation.
Certain of our major Canadian industries are being severely impacted by U.S. trade. These strategic sectors include autos, steel, aluminum, copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, and of course, softwood lumber. So while we'll continue to work with the United States on the many mutually beneficial opportunities that we share in trade and investment, it is clear that we cannot count or fully rely on what has been our most valued trading relationship for our prosperity. And that's why we're increasingly focused on building our strength at home and finding new opportunities for Canadian companies and workers abroad.
And that's it for Business 360. I'm Robert Tan, sitting in for Mikey Oreta. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.